Yo, what up, guys? We're on the clock. We're so back. It's about damn time. It's been a minute since the three of us were together on a podcast, but I couldn't be happier that the on the clock original crew minus Nate Kazel, shout out to Nate, is back again for hopefully the long term of this basketball season. It's good to have you guys back. How are we doing? If you guys don't know, I'm joined by the always wonderful Quint Leale and Julian
Yeah,
Mendelsohn.
appreciate the shout out.
Yeah,
Excited to talk some ball.
yeah.
What was the last pod we did together?
It had to have been last
Was that
pod
Erson?
we did together was the talking about the trade deadline. I think that the last pod all three of us did together.
Remembers my hot takes to begin the season.
No. I thought we did Erson after that. Didn't we?
Potentially.
Mm.
Yeah, we did a few of those last season, but we're getting back into it.
We did the Quint Focus podcast after Quint left us, after the Urson podcast.
Okay, so it was the hot
Good.
takes
I don't know if we ever.
podcast.
I don't think we ever did that.
We did the all-time shooters rankings and draft, and then we were planning on doing the did we end up doing the all-time defense? Yeah, we did. Then, but it was after the all-time defense with the Larry Bird incident that it was Quinn was out the door.
That was when you fucking drafted LeBron and MJ because you decided that you were just going to fucking include LeBron as your as your include on the all-time defense list.
Yeah, I mean, I took Michael Jordan 1 and took LeBron James 2nd, and
Oh,
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah.
the one who asked for the rule, so I used it to my advantage.
that was a
And
troll.
it was a troll.
Terrible.
It was so good.
PTSD from that.
But hey, I'm happy that we've come back together. I really am. It was a lot of fun doing this by myself for a bit. Me and Julian had a good stint of a couple months of the podcast game. But it's definitely more fun to have the three of us back. I hope you guys are glad to be back as well on the clock podcast.
Stoked, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I guess we'll get into kind of the topics for today. But before we do, want to give a little words of encouragement and thoughts and prayers towards Bronny James. Unfortunately, if you didn't hear the news, this will probably go out on probably that he had his cardiac arrest, unfortunately, I think yesterday, Monday, the 24th of July. This will probably get out the next week, Monday, on the 31st. So hopefully, even when this comes out, he's doing much better, and there's some positive news, indicating that he'll hopefully be able to suit up for USC this season. Kind of a somber note to start, but I feel like we had to say something. It'd be wrong to talk about the basketball world and not show our feelings about it, I guess. I don't know if you guys have anything to say.
It's just
Not.
scary, dude. Like, could happen to anyone at any time, you know?
Yeah. The fact that it can happen to LeBron James, son of all people, means that like nobody's protected from stuff happening. So it's good to stay healthy and appreciate the moments that we got.
That's
Make the most of
exactly
it.
what I was about to say. Definitely makes you appreciate the lives that we have and the time that we're able to spend. Like Quint probably couldn't have said it any better, just appreciating every moment. So with that being said, we're gonna kind of get into some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. We haven't talked in a while, and there hasn't been an on the clock podcast in a while because I decided to just kind of keep myself radio silent for the rest of the draft process. But we haven't talked about the NBA finals. We didn't talk about the playoffs. We didn't talk about the draft. We didn't talk about the offseason yet. We've talked about nothing. And besides the ancillary conversations we've all kind of had individually with each other and a couple of group convos, we haven't talked that much ball. So I guess I'm going to start with Quint again here, as he is our resident Nikola Jokic stan. And what are your thoughts on the NBA finals there, champ?
Man, there's a lot I can say. For one thing, I'm not surprised. Like, I feel like a lot of people doubted Jokic's ability, namely this one guy who happens to be on a podcast right now, big Embiid guy, if you didn't know. Well, the thing about Jokic is he has an unmatched offensive versatility. Like imagine a 7-footer that can hit floaters like, Nick superstar Jalen Brunson, hit 3-pointers like Steph Curry, rebound like Hakeem, and dish like Magic Johnson and put 30 on your favorite player. And the fact he did this for an entire playoff run, using advanced stats, that playoff run actually ranked as the 14th best playoff run in NBA history. The only in this century, the only playoff runs that were better was Shaq in 2001 and Duncan in 2003. So what this guy was doing is like 2018 LeBron plus Kyrie Irving, and how Jamal Murray was, just incredible. Like, I mean, Jokic had a lot of tools this time.
On that list.
He had a series. I think it was like of all guys to get 0 accolades in the season. I think his series versus the Lakers ranks like probably like top 15 among guys to not get recognition with league awards. So there's some credit. Yeah, and the fact that they like something that epitomizes their run together was the fact that they were the first ever duo with a 30-point triple double, and they just happened to do it in the NBA finals. So I don't know. I was just really proud of the guy, big Serbian fella, and man, it was a treat. I'm excited to see what happens next year. It'd be really competitive.
Julian, you got anything to say? He kind of threw some shots at you.
It's all love, though.
Yeah, look, there's a reason I was dreading this. I mean, I do have to say it. The debate is over until if Joel Embiid ever decides he's going to actually try and win a championship for once and actually does it. Until that point, the debate is over. Nikola Jokic is better. I'm not bullshitting you. There's no ifs, ands, ors, or buts about it. I've conceded. It's over. Nikola Jokic is the best center in the NBA. I apologize to Quint for ever doubting this. Ever. I would never. I can't believe I
apologize.
Thought about doubting it. I do want to say though that like the interesting thing about this finals is that it kind of set the stage for the draft, because I don't think we've ever had a finals where role players have been impactful as they. Like right. Obviously, like not trying to take anything away from Jokic and Murray because they were phenomenal, and the reason that the Nuggets won the finals was because of those two guys. But like, I also just like want to mention that like Bruce Brown, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon. I'm not going to mention MPJ because I don't think he played that well. But like those other four guys were phenomenal. And they did so many things for the Nuggets, especially on defense. And like they were able to kind of fill in the gaps and allow Jokic to kind of just take over games.
Mm-hmm. And oh yeah. Perfect complementary pieces. Like Aaron Gordon's we always talk about spacing as like 3-point spacers, but his vertical spacing, if you can throw a lob from anywhere, because this, he can throw passes from anywhere, opens up a lot of windows and just creates a lot of havoc. So it's crazy to watch, man. It was 2014 Spurs on steroids. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, I agree.
Like even for the Heat though, like Max Strus, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, like
oh yeah,
so many role players dominated these playoffs.
Caleb Martin could have won that award.
I think we lost Quinn for a moment.
Since I think Jimmy had an incredible run, but he just got gassed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you said anything before Jimmy had an incredible run. He got gassed because we lost you for a second, Quinn. But Jimmy Butler, even himself, is a great representation of where a late first round pick and a second round pick can go in terms of leading a team to a championship. Even if it's not always the superstar player, like Julian pointed out, some of these role pieces and how they were utilized really set up well for the draft class that we were looking at, and kind of going forward with kind of the trends in basketball scouting from more of like a superstar, find the best player on the planet type of philosophy to now more team building, team orchestrating philosophy, getting guys who can make from all 5 positions, guys who can rebound at all 5 positions, guys who can play defense at all 5 positions, switchability, things like that are all things we saw on display. trying to figure out centers that are able to stop Nikola Jokic. I mean, Bam, I thought would have been one of the guys at the top of the list, but I think that, we're going to
I think AD was the guy at the top of the list, and you saw what he did to that guy.
Yeah, that wasn't.
I think the next line of guys are going to be the lanky ass motherfuckers, though, the Mobleys, the Holmgrens, and the Wembenyamas. I'll be curious to see how those line of guys stack up against some of these bigger bodied centers, like Embiid, like Jokic. Kind of, I don't know if you guys had any more thoughts. I didn't watch much of the finals. I was kind of wrapped up in scouting at that point still. Like, I was pretty obsessive. I think I watched maybe 2 or 3 of the games. I saw the double 30-point triple-double game, which was definitely a lucky catch. And I mean, I got to see just incredible shot making from Jokic. I think above the stats that Quint was talking about, just his shot making ability, I think separates him onto a different tier of superstar where, a guy like Sabonis for Sacramento has a similar impact offensively, being able to move the ball from the high post, shoot it well in the mid range. But I think Jokic just takes it to another level when he's able to hit step back threes. And he's just kind of able to chuck up shots with that fucking catapult release.
Oh
and
God,
insane.
They're in. They're baskets.
Those shot hits, that series versus the Lakers was probably one of the most satisfying series I've seen in a while. I think since the 2022 finals, that was my favorite.
Yeah, that closeout game, some of the shots that he was hitting late in the clock were just like
the
what
one over.
What are you supposed to
do? The one over AD where he looks like he has nothing going for him, turns around, steps back, and Serbian catapults it over his head and just drills it as a shot clock. How do you defend that?
The name of his jumper? Did Julian just coin his jumper? The Serbian
catapult.
I think
I love that character. This is growth. Growth right now.
Admit it. That's a beautiful trademark. That shit.
Julian. That was a great trademark.
We need to make shirts.
Trademark that.
Clock shirts. Serbian catapult on it with a picture of Jokic with his face washed out and no logo on the jersey or anything like that. Just a big white.
That'd be sick.
The ball from behind his head.
No, I think the beauty of it too is that there's a lot of players that could actually. Okay, there's nobody that has played like that in probably 20 years. But the fact that he did that and was very humble about it throughout the process, I feel like set a very good precedent for hoopers in general. Considering how we're in the era of guys like Mikey Williams, it's good to have that juxtaposition of a Jokic who's,
why are you gonna keep Mikey Williams, bro?
That's a stray for Mikey Williams, dude.
Mikey Williams is catching knockout blows from On the Clock podcast for no reason. It's not the War Room in December or January, bro. This is the On the Clock podcast in July. Williams hasn't suited up for Memphis yet. We don't need to trash him yet.
Oh, wait, he got drafted? That guy?
Oh, yeah, no. Memphis.
He's going to the University of Memphis.
Oh, gosh. He's probably going to shoot somebody.
Oh, my God.
Sorry on the clock. He's in the Ja Morant mini camp.
Oh my God. Quint brought the friggin' comedy material out tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're feeling good. I want to know it's not up, Quint. But anyway, we'll move on to the next conversation. Kind of as we were referring to the NBA draft. I know that Quint isn't as big of a draft scout or draft nerd like me and Julian, but I'm sure that maybe you have some anecdotes that you maybe want to bring up from the draft. Do you have any? Because me and Julian are going to ramble about this for probably about 15
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll say, I mean, this draft was there was a lot of hype around the guys at the top of the lottery. Like Wembanyama just has the skill set. We all see it. He's like, if he has confidence, he has a good demeanor, he's in a good system with arguably the greatest coach ever. And I don't know, that pretty much he has everything in line for him right now to be like a Kevin Durant plus Rudy Gobert, like in reality, as long as he stays healthy. And what's actually incredible is in my summer league stats, we'll talk about that later, is he ranked as the DPOY in just 2 games. So yeah, it's crazy. No, actually.
I guess I have a question for you. I mean, yeah, obviously we're
Yeah.
excited with the Wembanyama San Antonio fit. I think you made some great points, and we'll talk more about the summer league stats because I'm actually really curious to hear about maybe who you'd have picked as like an all summer league first team or something like that based off your
I was
stats.
actually,
Um,
yeah, based on, yeah, ask the
yeah,
question.
just as me and Joyner talking, you can kind of draft that up. But I had one more question before you do.
Yeah.
Who is the Keegan Murray of this draft class? Who do you see from their college numbers? Who's going to come in and be, a top 3 level producer as a rookie? Because clearly you
I,
saw the Keegan Murray thing before we all did, but I mean, I'd be lying if I told you I
I
didn't. I showed you he was the top rated guy by one of my
yeah,
metrics
yeah,
pre-draft.
I appreciate you acknowledging that. I mean, I feel like there's a few guys. I mean, the tough thing with summer league is it's such a small sample size. I'll just say the guys that I like that I feel like could have that sort of upside.
Wait on
Okay,
the
I would
summer league.
say
What about college guys from their college season
from
last?
their college season.
Yeah, who do you
Well,
think would
I
be like a high efficiency role player that could come in
well
and produce really well?
honestly, I was thinking that was going to be that Brandon Podzaisky guy, but he was actually the least valuable of the guys in my draft in the draft class in summer league. So I'm having second thoughts, but I really like the Thompson twins, and I think a sleeper pick is Jalen Pickett. Like I think that guy could find a big role as like he can help the Nuggets for a few years to come. I like that, and I feel like the guys that have the highest upside outside of Wemby,
In the top.
probably the top. Yeah, yeah. In the lottery is the Thompson twins and Keontae George was amazing
It
in
is
summer league.
phenomenal, summer league.
So those guys.
I think Keontae George is the guy that really could be the Keegan Murray of this class. I think that with Utah, and kind of some of the moves that they were able to make, they look like they could compete a little bit. And with Walker Kessler and a stacked draft class that they got that included George, Hendricks, and Sensabaugh, they could be pretty good.
Are we gonna forget that they traded Rudy Gay for John Collins?
Yeah, that as well. The John Collins trade was incredible. Well, I
Like,
mean,
Yeah, he had
just
yeah.
a salary dump though. Atlanta didn't want his salary at all. And it wasn't even about the player at
unbelievable.
that point. You know what I mean? It wasn't about the player at that point.
Yeah.
Atlanta
I'm
knows
curious.
they have no chance with their current roster construction. Their front office definitely knows that with their current roster construction, as long as you
Yeah,
have
before
on your lineup sheet, you're not winning a championship. Because that dude
oh man.
$40 million for nothing.
Don't talk to Capella like that. But I think before we get into the offseason, you guys should talk a little bit about the draft. I'm curious your guys' insights from that.
Go
Any
ahead.
sleepers, takeaways?
Go ahead. You know where I'm going to start, Julian. So you can go ahead, kind of stir up
I mean, I'll start at the top because I think there's a pretty obvious thing to mention here, and that's Charlotte screwed up and Portland is so damn lucky. I don't understand. I could go on a 20-minute rant about this. I'm not going to. I don't understand why Scoot Henderson was not the second player picked in this class. I just don't. He, from day one, me and Caleb have been talking about this. As in terms of, not in terms of the best potential player from this draft, but in terms of surefire, zero chance that this guy is going to be a bust. Scoot Henderson was number one on my list. This guy is at least a very good starting point guard. At best, a multi-year all-star with best point guard in the East potential, or I guess in the West potential. And
Right.
I don't understand how you let that pass. I know the fit with LaMelo, I put that in quotation marks, was an issue, but
Portland
there's
drafted him to play, alongside Damian Lillard. Like,
yeah.
I think it's also I think it's a positional thing where it seems like I think out of the top 10 most valuable players this past year, most of those guys are like basically 6'10" and up. And obviously there's gonna like one of the few guys, like the few guys that really get into that top 10 for the MVP is like Stephen Curry, who's literally a god, and then Damian Lillard, who
do you know
also is like that.
who's been working out with Steph Curry all offseason?
Scoot Henderson, right?
Yeah.
Just because you work out with him doesn't mean that you're gonna.
They've been working out.
It takes more than that. Ben Simmons got to work out with KD, Harden,
yeah, but I mean,
Kyrie.
Did Ben Simmons go in there doing dribbling drills with them? Like, are there videos of Ben Simmons going back and forth with a tennis ball and Kevin Durant? No, it's just them playing against.
They don't send the media their bloopers, so that's why we wouldn't see that.
But
I think that if Henderson, my point more was that if Henderson's playing and training with players like Steph Curry, he's clearly got the mentality to want to improve. And I think that with his floor of just how great of an athlete it is, his first step is unreal. Quickest first step in this entire draft class easily. And I mean, this class is stacked with like quick burst athletes, with the Thompsons. You got Cam Whitmore. I mean, all these guys are electric off their first step. And I think Scoot just blows them all out of the water. I think his finishing ability at the rim is going to be like evident day one. I think that he's going to be bodying people, and the pairing of him, even with Dame, is fine for me. I think Dame is fine off ball. I think both of them getting on ball reps. Their team's going to have consistently one of the best point guards in the entire conference on the court with either player.
If Dame stays,
I think it takes time.
Loyalty.
I just like, I understand the hype around Brandon Miller because of his archetype, but I think he's much more of a swing. And I think that
I had him at 4 on my board. I'm going to talk about my number 3 in a moment. But
I feel like a lot of people. I feel like the narrative discussion around Brandon Miller tailed off because of Alabama being disappointing in March Madness, and I feel that's always a big. There's always a big recency dump there.
Well, he in particular was not very good in the tournament, but that's not. I think that yes, top end, you like top end with a player like that. Yes, you see Jason Tatum, but I don't think that's like Paul George. But I don't think that's like. I don't think that's like the outcome for Brandon Miller.
I like the Paul George comparison as a ceiling. I think he's got a lot of Paul George in him.
It's a ceiling, but I don't think he's going to get
very clear. I mean, he says Paul George is his GOAT. He thinks he's the greatest player.
Okay, if Paul George is Brandon Miller's GOAT, who's Scoot Henderson's GOAT based on play style comparison?
100% Steph Curry is his GOAT. 100% Steph Curry is his GOAT. I mean, the kid grew up he's our age. Isn't that crazy? Like, he's younger than all three of us, probably. He's for sure younger than Julian. But I don't know I think he's 20 probably.
He is, because he was plus. No, he's like 19, dude, because he was G League Ignite at 17 and 18, so he's like 19 now.
Yeah, it's going to be unreal. I'm incredibly excited to see what he can do in Portland. I think that that'll be exciting, but kind of backing off the Brandon Miller takes, I'll give my kind of spiel on that. I think Julian hit it on the nose. It's not about Brandon Miller. It's more about Scoot Henderson. And he should have been the second overall pick. I think that Wembanyama even said himself that guy would have been the first overall pick if he wasn't in the draft. I know for certain that if Wembanyama was in next year's draft class and Scoot Henderson was still in this one, he would have been the top player taken off the board by San Antonio. 100%.
I agree with that.
If there's if there was some sort of medical, I don't want to put this ill will in the air, but a hypothetical, if all of a sudden Wembanyama had a crazy like leg contusion or something like that they knew it was going to be like a lingering injury, or like he had a back problem, God forbid, if he had a fucking back problem, he would have gone third or fourth. Wembanyama would have. No team's drafting a 7'5" kid with a back problem after seeing Hashim Thabit in Memphis and seeing
that's a name.
All these guys. Like,
I honestly feel like the Thompson twins are. I feel like there's a good shot that the Thompson twins. I think it could be better than any of the guys up top. Besides,
I think Asar Thompson has a great chance to be the best player in this draft class, and we'll get into it when we talk about Summer League. But I think the one thing from the draft specifically that I have to say is that there's no way that Cam Whitmore should have been taken with the 20th overall pick.
I actually have in my notes, the Rockets are thieves.
The Rockets won the whole draft.
They got two. Yes, they got 2 top 5 picks with 5 and 20.
You guys are gonna have to sell me. Should we go into Summer League?
No.
Let's stick with the draft.
MVP of Summer League.
So they're so connected, but it says that he's the MVP of Summer League. But was he the MVP of Summer League?
I understand that you're going to go into some efficiency stuff. His shooting numbers aren't great. But when it comes down to it, basketball player. When you watch the games, because I watched the games, Quint. We both know you didn't watch the Rockets play in Summer League, but when I watched the Rockets play and I saw Cam,
I watched a little bit.
I watched the Rockets on the court. I was impressed because I think that he displayed from day one that he's going to be one of the best athletes in the NBA, and he is going to create highlights in Houston as a team. They excite me. I don't think that they're going to be a contender like a lot of Rockets fans might think. Jalen
But
Green. Jalen Green.
Jalen Green's the next Kevin Durant.
Jalen Green is not Kobe Bryant, but and he's not. I saw somebody the other day comparing to De'Aaron Fox, and I was like, "What are you smoking, dude?" But I think with their collection of talent, they could have a really exciting team that gets up and down. I don't know where Sengun fits in that whole scheme, but I mean, he's going to be throwing a lot of lobs next year, a lot of lobs, because they just added two of the best lob threats in this draft class, with Thompson and Whitmore. That stuff aside, like small little things, I think that just at the end of the day, I mean, I had Whitmore ranked on the third player in my board. I had him above Brandon Miller. I thought he was, when he was healthy and on the court, I thought he was clearly the best and most talented player in college basketball. Yeah, that's kind of all I got. I just think that he's so good. I can't believe it's not really that I'm knocking any team, because I still like the draft class as a whole. I don't like Kobe Buffkin that much. I don't like Jordan Hawkins that much. That's just my taste in players. It's just that I don't see how he slipped that far. Like, I understand, and I heard kind of a little bit of it. Villanova's coach didn't really speak that highly of him in a lot of the interviews that he had with teams. And that was a big decision maker and dropping down. He didn't, and Whitmore didn't have like the most phenomenal shooting workouts. And he's just not a shooter. He's more of a slasher and a defender. I think that he's a really underrated defender. But yeah, that's kind of and he's also
that
laid back guy. I don't see him as a guy who's going to go in there and wow you with his charisma or anything like that. Like, I just think he cares about the main thing, which is getting freaking buckets, dude. And he is going to be a bucket getter year one when he has the opportunities. I don't know where he fits on Houston's roster. I would have rather seen him go to Utah. I would rather him be the missing piece in Utah's equation. Run a lineup with whatever guy you draft to be your point guard, and you have Whitmore, Markkanen, John Collins, and Walker Kessler out there. I mean, that team is huge.
Yeah, I have some comments on like Whitmore that I'll get into when we talk about the summer league.
Couple
I see what you mean.
G.G. Jackson shouldn't have slipped to the second round. I think the Grizzlies got a steal in him. He displayed that in summer league. He played much better than what he was. I think that a lot of teams did really, really well in the second round. Denver got Hunter Tyson, who I think is going to be a really underrated addition. I think he'll come in and be a really good role player for them. Quint talked about Jalen Pickett, who I thought was a great player for them to get. I think he's a really versatile guard that you can kind of play at the 1 or the 2 or even the 3.
I bet, of all the rookies in summer league, he was the 6th most valuable.
Major Bruce Brown plus flat vibes. Like, I think he can do everything that Bruce Brown did in terms of role playing with his rebounding, momentary defense. I don't think
facilitator,
but he's going to be able to facilitate the ball, get it back in
spaces,
and he'll be able to space the floor. And he can take on smaller guards and post them up and score in the paint. He's good in the pick and roll. I thought that was a great addition. I guarantee we're going to see some sets.
He's pretty old.
Yeah, but who cares? Like, that's what we're just talking about.
I mean, that's what a lot of the contenders will draft, guys that are older.
Draft anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, they want a guy who's going to contribute day one.
Some of my favorite, I got to shout out two of my guys that did great in getting their name called. Jalen Slauson. I was really happy to see that he got drafted. I felt like that was really well deserved. As well as Olivier Maxence Prosper rising up into the top 25. I think he was like 17th or 18th or something like that. 24th, maybe.
He was 20. He was in the 20s. I have it pulled up in front of me right here. He was 24th.
Yeah, 24th to Dallas. I thought that was a great get for them. I had him valued near the 17th. I mean, the steal of the draft completely was Trace Jackson Davis going all the way at pick 60.
Yeah.
And getting up on the Golden State Warriors, which I thought was the best fit in the entire world.
I want to talk about a couple of teams before we move to Summer League that I think also had a really good draft that we haven't even talked about.
If you don't mention the Kings, I'm going to be upset with you.
I wanted to mention the Lakers first off, because I absolutely loved what they did. I was a big J Hood guy coming into the draft. Quinn is making faces because I guess his stats don't like Jay Hood-Schifino. I love Jalen Hood-Schifino.
I test when Summer League's a joke in terms of statistics, dude. That you'll learn someday, pal.
When you're shooting 37% true shooting, the eye test doesn't matter as much. But I'm listening.
We'll talk
He's a
about
legit. He's just a very very solid lead guard, like straight up point guard. Does what he does. The shooting will be fine. I mean, he shot the ball like decently enough in college. I'm not that concerned about it. They also got Max Lewis, who I think just looks like an NBA player to me. Like sometimes you see a 6 foot whatever, 6'7", 6'8", however free. He looks like a forward, shoots like a forward, dribbles like a forward, moves like a forward. If it looks like a forward, walks like a forward, it's probably a forward. He's probably a forward. And then I also like under the radar. I mean, we talked about the Jazz a little bit, but I just liked what the Jazz did. Like they took a lot of swings on guys.
Hendricks is a great add to their.
Yeah, Hendricks is phenomenal. I think like the other guy that probably shouldn't drop, who we've been talking about, is Keontae George. Like he should have been a lottery pick, straight up. Like
Yeah, didn't
the
he go
scoring is there.
17?
16th. But like the thing is like he's a legitimate defender, works hard on that end, and he is a guy who can get to his spots and score almost at will at times. Like there were times for that Baylor team where he would go on these runs of scoring 8 or 10 points in a row, just like on heat checks, basically. And I think he's very capable of like doing something that Jason Tatum does, where Tatum will be quiet for a quarter and then all of a sudden you'll look and he's scored the last 12 out of 15 or something like Keontae George is so capable of doing that at an NBA level. And I think that there's a few guys, and I think there's a few guys that went ahead of him that like I'm not sold on Jordan Hawkins. I'm not sold on Kobe Buffkin. I'm not 100% sold on Chet Howard.
Those are the three names that I thought of before you even said that. Those are the three names that I would have not taken in the top 17 without taking Cam Whitmore and Keontae George first. I would have taken GG Jackson before I'd take any of those three names.
Yeah, GG at 48 is ridiculous. Also, I do want to say I can't believe that a guy who I was high on from the second I saw him, Kobe Brown, got drafted with the 30th overall pick. Caleb, you remember I was watching for Demoy Hodge, and I was like, yo, this Kobe Brown kid's pretty good.
Yeah. Speaking of Demoy Hodge, big ups to him and the rest of the guys in this undrafted class getting a lot of run. Demoy Hodge was the guy that we had. Jake Stevens went to the Kings for two-way. Amari Moore for the Bucks. For your 76ers, they got a solid class with Turk Smith. Who else did they get?
Ricky Council and Azuolas
Tubelis. All three of those guys have come in and provide an impact, especially the G League level. I mean, all three of those guys. You guys already have a stacked G League team with
defending G League champs, baby.
Yeah, Mac McClung, Mac McDog. He's that guy. So, all right, Quint. We're shifting over to the summer league talk. Tell us about how the players that we scouted for several months are trashed based on a week and a half of basketball.
No, it's nothing like that. Well, I was just gonna say we can start off with the whole Cam Whitmore thing. Okay. So I made this MVP stat, which is 80% accurate in the NBA for MVPs, All NBA, and All Stars. And 80%. So I decided to use that 80%. Yeah, I decided to use that logic to figure out the MVP for Summer League. And so, mind you, it's pretty tough because sample size, but Jabari Smith Jr. was the second most valuable player, averaging 35, 4, and 7.
Was Keegan Murray the most valuable player?
No, I don't even think I had him on the list because he put like one game. But
Jabari definitely didn't qualify for sample size for whatever the.
Oh league. No, he didn't qualify. He didn't qualify, but I basically put like I reduce everybody's impact because of how small their sample is. But that's kind of like why the Rockets started off really hot. And I'm getting into this. The reason I'm bringing that up is because they named a first team and a second team in Summer League. And I got 7 of those guys in my top 12 in MVP. So I was basically 7 out of 10 there. And the MVP of the Summer League, Cam Whitmore, was 79. So it goes like 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, like 11, 12. And then I think Max Christie was 21st, and another guy was 30, and then Cam Whitmore 79. I feel like he had an amazing game where he had like almost 30 points and 8 steals, and that was really what left. That was the residue heading into voting time. So I feel like Cam Whitmore is pretty good. I feel like he's got some amazing talent. So I think he'll definitely prove me wrong in the league. I just didn't think he was the MVP of Summer League.
Yeah.
If you,
I mean, it's definitely more of, it's like definitely still, like you said, MVP awards are narrative driven awards. The all Summer League, or in most cases all NBA teams, tend to dictate, top 15 players, especially next year where it goes positionless.
If you want to look at the most valuable guys from this draft class, just to give you guys some context, where I hear your observations, Hunter Tyson was just shooting lights out, which is one of those like rare small sample size bits where he was 73% true shooting, 50% from three.
That's what he does.
I mean, yeah, he essentially swung the final score.
Underrated athlete.
Yeah, there's actually three. I think there's three Denver guys in the top 10 of this draft class in terms of like impact during the short span. Was Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett, and Julian Strother, which I'm probably saying his name wrong.
No,
but I'll give you the list. I'll give you the list of the most valuable guys on my out of the rookies. It's Hunter Tyson, Keontae George, Jalen Wilson of Brooklyn, Victor Wembanyama, Kobe Brown, Jalen Pickett, Azur Thompson, Amen Thompson, Julian Strother, Imani Bates, Trace Jackson, Timani Camara, Cam Whitmore, Keontae Johnson, and so on. But there are some guys that had higher volume and just like didn't look well in a short spurt. Like I was very high on Brandon Podziemski going into it, but he was having a tough one. Same with Anthony Black, Jarris Walker, and Kobe Buffkin.
So I will say with Jarris, because I watched a lot of Jarris Walker, they were kind of just giving him leeway to shoot, and that's not really his game. Like in a real NBA game, Jarris Walker should probably be taking 4 to 8 shots, and they had him taking like something like 12 to 15 shots, which like it was kind of just like a let him play, see what happens.
Yeah,
like,
he was on the struggle bus from 3. 1 point.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1.3 makes to 7 attempts.
He was not good from 3. But like the thing that I want to talk about with him, because he was a player that I was really, really high on Summer League, because it wasn't the scoring that impressed me. It's that he did literally everything else. Like he was rebounding. He was getting assists. In the first game he played, he had a couple of like just straight up. He had one dime where he like what?
He had one dime out. I know which play you're talking about. Out of the short roll, going left, throws it behind the back with the left hand. And he's right-handed.
No, not even that one. The one where he has like the play looks like it's dead. He goes like 2 feet from the foul line and just gives like the quickest little touch pass for a wide open dunk, and then follows it up 2 plays later with a bounce pass. So like with
those
him,
all sound like good plays.
With him, like I'm more looking at the flashes that he shows with literally everything other than scoring. With him, like scoring is kind of a plus, because he does everything else so well. And if he, like, obviously he has to be better from 3. I'm not going to sit here and say, yay, he made 1 out of every 7 shots from 3. Like, that's great. Like, we're going to roll with that.
He made 1.
Yeah. Like, I think him, if he shoots like somewhere between 25 and 30% at the NBA level.
Yeah. Only guy who shot worse was Buffkin.
Really?
Yeah.
That's 14, not good.
14% from. Yeah, 14% from 3.
This draft class. Like, I mean, everybody knew that Kobe Buffkin was supposed to be a star.
What's up with Buffkin? You guys got to give me some context here.
No, we're just making fun of fellow people in the draft community for how much shoved Kobe Buffkin on our throats at the end of the year.
Is it because his name is Kobe, so people just liked him? They're like,
well, no, it's just because people are irrational about players whenever they see them have good highlights once in a while.
I think that's what happens when you have the name Kobe, is people just like irrationally think that you're one of the best players in the world,
Yeah. I'll tell you the least valuable guys from the draft class so far. In the Summer League was Brandon Podziemski.
I want to know about Jelly Walker. Where did Jelly Walker end up after?
Jarris Walker?
No, Jelly
Walker. He's probably not on the list.
Are they the same person?
No.
Jordan Walker.
Out of UAB.
Jelly Walker out of UAB.
We've got priorities here, guys. No, it wasn't. We've got
Oh,
priorities here, guys. We care
Oh,
about
he
Jalen
dropped like
Walker over everyone
35,
else.
or he like had a couple. He had one game with 30, I think, and then he had like 2 games where he played like 19 minutes and dropped 20 plus. Like just electric. Like was in for like 15 minutes, had like 18 points, comes in for another couple minutes, makes a three, and gets out of the game.
mm.
Just like the most Jelly Walker thing possible. I
Dude,
like
I
what I saw
I
from
do
him.
just want to say, like the Turk. What?
No, go
I
ahead.
was I was just gonna say, like, speaking of guys that were like came in and flashy, Turk is like the most frustrating prospect to ever watch play in NBA.
Yeah, he's not doing anything different than he did in high.
Spurts where what?
He's not doing anything different than he was doing in high school or college.
No, like he looks so good for these like 2 minute spurts, and then he like commits 3 turnovers in a row, and you're like, dude, this is why you didn't get drafted. Like the stuff that you did 2 minutes ago was great. Like, do more of that,
Yeah.
please. Oh man. Oh, it was so
I
frustrating.
had a couple
Yeah.
other guys that I wanted to talk about from summer league, but they're escaping me at the moment. Jelly Walker was one for sure. Um, I was just
We
I
can
was
hit.
I was just happy to see everybody in NBA uniforms. I mean, I spent so much time on that class, and I mean, I was just smitten to be honest. The
I,
whole time.
I,
Summer league was a
That's
great.
valid.
I was on vacation. Every time I would tune into a game, I was a little intoxicated, or I was at an airport or on an airplane. So I mean,
Yeah.
there was nothing better than
Like
watching
knowing your level of commitment during the school year, during college basketball.
and let
Like
it go.
it must be nice to see your kids leave leave college and head to
That's
the
how I
big
felt
leagues.
though. I felt like I was dropping my kids off at their first day of their first job. You know what I
it is.
mean?
It
Like
is.
I had to
Yeah.
kiss them all goodbye. You know what I mean? I had to make sure I tuned into every team. I was able to
Yeah.
catch every single team play at least once, and that was kind of my goal. And it was fun. I had a little fun time. Oh, I wanted to talk about Asar Thompson. Um,
Can I have something to lead into that? Because I have a great lead in. Because I
Yeah,
wanted
go
to
for it.
say that OT in general was really, really impressive.
Dominic Barlow. It's my guy.
Dom Barlow,
He
Jalen
ranked highly.
Martin.
San Antonio. Julian will test. He was the one guy. I liked Montero, and Montero's been tearing it up overseas. But Dominic Barlow was the one guy that I
Was the
said to you
guy.
in a year could turn himself into a really solid NBA player if
I'm
he.
pretty sure you had him top 60 last year.
I did have him top. I had both of them top 60.
Yeah.
He would have ranked. I didn't have him for whatever reason connected to my draft data, but he would have ranked third in the class. Barlow, in terms
Yeah,
of
he was
value,
great. Great rim running big. Has been able
eighth
to
in the summer league.
get a little mid range, but he is just like he knows how to score around the basket.
He's
Especially on smaller defenders. That kid's a matchup, a mismatch nightmare for sure.
interesting fit alongside a certain 7'5" string beam they have over there.
I mean, he's a really interesting fit next to him. And Sohan can do similar things to him. I think they got a really exciting team in San Antonio going forward. I mean, they're going to be I think they'll be an okay young team next year relative to, the Jazz and the Thunder are really the teams that they're going to be competing with that are running out lineups as young as them. The Pacers. Well, I was talking about more Western Conference teams.
Pacers look kind of good.
The Pacers look really good, young team wise. I mean, with Ben Matt and Tyrese run the show. I'm a big Matherin guy, so I liked seeing him come into summer league, tear it up, and then not play the rest of the time. I thought that was really nice. I liked all the little 2-day look at me come back to the summer league. I'm a second year superstar. I'm gonna dunk on people all of a sudden when they didn't think I
I
was.
think
Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray.
I'll say this. I feel like we're at a rare spot in NBA history where each team has like star power or star talent. Where like there's guys that just got drafted to the bottom feeders, the tankers that I feel like could be faces that we see in the playoffs in like give or take 5 years. And so I think it'll be very interesting to see how the league aligns next year because we saw so much parity. I feel like a lot of that parity could be shaken up with the NBA offseason. So I'm curious your guys' thoughts on where Harden and Dame are going to go and all your takes on moves so far. Like, what do you guys think about the Chris Paul to the Warriors move?
I forgot that
Well, we're about
happened,
to get
bro.
into offseason. I want to talk about Asar Thompson.
All-Star
Oh, you
Thompson
want
then offseason.
Yeah.
All right.
I think Asar Thompson is the one guy that I really, really regret knocking in this draft process because I think I really wanted to have him top 5, but I just didn't believe in the OTE thing. I definitely don't regret having Amen Thompson around like 11 or 12 because I think that's where his value will end up in this class when it's all said and done. Relative to his peers, obviously some guys will fall out of that top 12 and he'll probably move up a bit. But I don't think that he'll get drafted any different. What I think about with Asar, he's just so much more ready to play off the ball. I think it was really evident that he knew how to do everything on the court in summer league. I mean, anybody who can consistently put up either 3 blocks or 3 steals is going to be a menace in the NBA. No matter what they're shooting, no matter how good the other stuff is, playmaking. I think if you have this kid who can run out there, and if he's going to be the best defender on the court every time he goes out, the Pistons look a lot better. They look a lot better. If they have a player like him, Duran was playing on ball and dribbling and shooting step back jumpers. The Pistons, I think with Asar Thompson, could be a team that makes a turn here over the next couple of years. I called the Cavs jump last season. I knew that if they got to play, I didn't know that they were going to get Donovan Mitchell at the time. But once they got Donovan Mitchell, it solidified even further that I thought that they were about to make a jump into the top 4 and into the East. And, if they would have stayed healthy as a team the entire season, every single player in that core, that, they're a top 4 team in the East. I think that the Pistons have a very good chance to maybe not top 4, but I think next year it'd be top 6 or 7.
Oh, they're so far
Do you
away.
think the Rockets will still be an AAU franchise next year?
Yes. Short answer, yes.
They're going to straight up play like an AAU basketball team.
Sorry, an AAU franchise that's paying Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet way too much money.
Could they be the first team to be demoted to the G League is the real question. I know the NBA is open to more soccer formats.
Dude, we got to do
Imagine Cam Whitmore in the G League, bro. He'd be so nasty.
They'll probably end up playing in the G League with their roster construction. No, I have no.
Why do they got? I feel like why do they have like 8 divas? Like, how is that supposed to be good? Just 8 guys is all shooting TikToks in the same locker room. Like, there's not enough space for that.
Could make it worse is if they draft Jared McCain next year.
Who?
They draft Jared McCain out of Duke next year. They'll just add the TikTok king of NCAA.
Oh my gosh, that'd be
We're about to get players into the NBA next year. Like, there's going to be players drafted that we've been watching since they were 15 or 16 doing TikToks.
That's weird.
Pretty well.
Dude, Mikey Williams, Jared McCain, ultimate Houston Rockets draft class.
Oh, you know what team that I think could drop next year? Chicago Bulls.
Dude,
I feel like they ranked as the 14th best team last year, but I could see them fall into like the bottom 20, 25.
Did they add?
Same with Washington. Washington will drop.
Oh, Washington stinks.
Indiana's going to move up. Toronto, I think, will stagnate unless Scotty Barnes finally gets a jump shot.
Wait. Hold on, Mister. The Raptors are going to be a 5 seed.
Oh, hold on, well, Mr. I mean,
the Raptors were going to be a 5 seed last year.
Well, they ranked. I was 2 seeds off, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. I'm curious what happens with the Sixers, though. There's a lot of question marks there. Are we done with summer league talk?
Yeah, I figured that a good place to start would be the Rockets
AAU team
and decisions in free agency to pay Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet as much money as they did. I felt like those were the 2 biggest mistakes of the offseason by far.
You know what's crazy? No. You want to hear something crazy, Quint?
Maybe besides getting Chris Paul for Jordan Poole.
Just can I put this into perspective?
Davis. They also got Trace Jackson Davis. But Chris Paul is more valuable to the Warriors than Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks are to the Rockets.
Can I just put something in perspective on that real fast? They traded Usman Garuba, Ty Washington, who were first-round picks last year, and 5 seconds, and Patty Mills to get Dillon Brooks on their roster. So essentially, they traded 2 firsts, 5 seconds, Patty Mills for Dillon Brooks. Just want to throw that out there.
Getting rid of Garuba was terrible too.
Well, I think Dillon Brooks. I'll say this: I think Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks had pretty bad shooting seasons last year. Like, that was the main reason why a lot of people are saying how bad it is, and also everybody wants to shit on Dillon Brooks. I think Fred VanVleet is a high character guy, who's undrafted, and I feel like if he can be the voice of reason in that locker room, that would be really big in changing the culture. I'm not sure about Dylan Brooks, his viability, but I will say this: a lot of people, what he made $80 million, right? A lot of people were talking about that. You have to understand that $80 million is like it's this it's like this price tag fever that people in the media have, where they think that's a lot. That's probably like 8% of the salary cap.
I mean,
Like, it's not much. That's a role player. And he was a really good defender, just like really struggled with shooting. And I think having teammates that kind of half believed in him were probably part of that problem. I think that it'd be interesting to see if he, has a revenge season.
my my biggest thing with the Rockets is where's the shooting going to come from? Like Jalen
It
Jesus
doesn't
Christ,
matter.
that
They're
was
not
like
ready.
Jalen
They're not
Smith.
ready to contend anyways. They need
Yeah,
like
but
20 more years.
that's my problem with it. Is
It's Jabari Smith.
That's like a we are ready to contend. Like bringing those guys in is like a we are ready to contend pair of moves. And I think that again, like I said, like they gave up all this like former first round picks and guys they gave up on. They're pushing guys like Amin Thompson and Cam Whitmore down in the rotation for these two guys. Like you just had one of like the most ridiculous back to back draft classes in a while. Like you drafted Şengün Smith, Jalen Green, Thompson, and Whitmore in the last 3 years. Like throw those guys out there and see what happens. You don't have to win right now. Why not? You have so many picks. Like, why make these two signings and why not like give your young guys an opportunity to grow and develop? That's why I hated the moves more than anything else. Because putting Fred VanVleet
I
and
think
Dylan
that's too
Brooks
big of a
into the
contract for Fred. I mean, I feel like they will. I don't think they're in the market right now to really contend. Like, they seem like they're at the very beginning of what's rebuilds.
Why give Fred
So I
Van
don't know.
like yeah, like I mean like you're getting two of
players
the
that are
better
both
players
ending
at their
teams?
positions on the market to just like slowly start to end your rebuild. Like that's the part of it that makes
It
no
seemed
sense to
like
me.
a lot of spending just to spend.
It feels like a lot of breath, honestly, on the Rockets of all teams. Like, what are they doing next year?
It's
Nothing.
true. Nothing.
You want to talk about the Chris Paul edition?
Yeah, that's a. I mean, I thought we'd start off. I feel like I don't know if I can consider the Warriors a true contender. I mean, they do have Steph Curry, who is, I think a lot of what is okay, I'll say this. Chris Paul was the 22nd most valuable player heading into the 2022 playoffs, right? And then he was amazing in that series versus the Pelicans, and then pretty much fell off when it was like, oh, Chris Paul cuts the lead to 35 in Game 7 versus the Mavs. A lot of people basically associated him with like being a bum because of that last game heading into the summer. And then he was just struggling a lot this year. I think the new addition to KD, we didn't get to see them together in the playoffs, which could have been a difference maker. And I feel like they were quick to quit on him, maybe because I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it was the right move to get younger. I feel like what he could do is really help the second unit mature for the Warriors. And I feel like Jonathan Kuminga will be the guy who is the X factor. I feel like he's going to be that Iguodala-esque
Him and Moody
guy
was
who
a lot
just
better.
Hmm?
Him and Moses Moody.
Didn't they trade
Yeah,
Moody?
Moody.
Didn't they
No,
trade Moody?
no, they still have
Nope,
Moody.
They
nope.
didn't. For some reason, I thought they traded Moody.
I feel like Moody would be the two guard off the bench.
Yeah,
And I feel like the whole Poole and Draymond Green thing was really what slowed them down last year. If that shit didn't happen or go public, I think there wouldn't be there was just such a big barrier for them
I
to
mean,
really do anything.
yeah. It turns out punching your teammate in the face does not really tend to go over well in terms to team chemistry.
And all honestly, they didn't do too bad considering how they pushed that Lakers team to I think they pushed them to 6 games,
They
and
pushed them to 6. Yeah.
and Game 4 was really competitive until what was that guy off the bench for the Lakers? Was the guy Lonnie Walker?
Lonnie Walker.
He went
I love
crazy in
Lonnie
that fourth
Walker, dude.
quarter. Like, if that didn't happen, it could have been a 2-2 series, and who knows what would happen with. So I wouldn't count him out, but I think that everybody else is getting better, and I don't know if Chris Paul is going to be that much of a difference maker. Only time will tell.
Like, where's the size? Like, they have very, very like you
Chris
have to
Jackson
basically.
Davis.
Yeah, well, that's exactly where I was going
And
with
I
that.
think Kuminga is a huge wing.
Like,
He
no,
plays
he's like
big.
He's a 4.
he's a.
He
I
plays
mean,
big.
like, sure, you've got like Kuminga and you've got, I guess, Draymond Green and like, but who's
Mooney.
you have to beat Nikola Jokic and Anthony Davis. Who do you have who's going to guard those guys in the playoffs?
Chris Jackson Davis.
Well, I'll say this. I think that having Andrew Wiggins for a full season will definitely be a difference because they were like a straggler heading into playoffs. Whereas if they had like that, he was their second best player in that championship series.
Yeah,
And I feel like having him for longer would be really good. And seeing Kuminga like come
Underrated
up.
player in the NBA right now.
Hmm?
Andrew Wiggins, is he the most underrated player in the NBA right now? I think Jamal Murray, I think Darius Garland was, and then I think Jamal Murray was. But now I think it might be Andrew Wiggins.
Wiggins is up there, dude.
Him and Brandon Ingram, I think, are very, very solidly in that conversation because they're on teams that where they have a star contemporary that, Steph Curry is quite a bit level above Wiggins, but I don't think that like the aggregate value is that much different because of Wiggins' defense. But like in New Orleans, Brandon Ingram's arguably more valuable than Zion Williamson because he stays on the
Yeah, well,
he stays on the
I,
court.
I think that could change.
And he can lay
I
off the
think
cheeseburgers. Like Brandon Ingram has not eaten a cheeseburger in like 6 years. Look at him.
yeah, that's a pretty good way of evaluating talent.
It is. How many cheeseburgers does this guy eat a week?
Yeah.
Rudy
No,
Gobert,
yeah,
Rudy Gobert can eat like 12. Steven Adams, 14.
yeah.
Jonas
I think a big
20. He gets 20 burgers a week.
Yeah, I think a big question mark next year is what happens with the Sixers. Because mind you, they were only one game away from, pushing over that Celtics team, which I mean they've been pretty dysfunctional. I think that the move to get Kristaps. Oh man, there's two moves in one we could talk about. What do you guys think about Kristaps going to Boston?
So here's my thing with that. Boston's issue is not talent, it's consistency. And like you say what you want, like yes, Jalen Jesus Christ. I always mix their freaking names up because they start with J's. Like, yes, Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum have both had games where they go off. But like, let's not forget that going into the fourth quarter of game 6 against the Sixers, Jason Tatum had what, like 5 points? You know what I mean? Like the problem with those guys is with both of those guys is that they both have these crazy peaks where they'll have like 5 minutes of a game where they look like top 5 NBA players, and you're like, oh my god, these two are unstoppable. And then they'll have like halves where they're like 0 for 10 or 1 for 11 or like stuff like that. And I don't I like so
I think that they play. I think that they play two similar roles where they can like get on each other's like. I don't know. They can overlap a little too much where there's not as much of a flow of being like you're the facilitator. You're not the facilitator. I feel like the Boston's offense was amazing in the beginning of the year. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, they were like on pace to be like second or first all time in offensive rating, and they look good. But I don't know. I'm curious what I think losing Marcus Smart definitely changes the culture, but at this point, they're just trying to really give into what the young stars want. They just paid Jaylen Brown a lot, so.
Yeah, let's talk about that
I mean,
Jaylen Brown bag that he got today.
like what does other than Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Malcolm Brogdon, who's in their backcourt? Are we relying on Peyton Pritchard to give us 20 meaningful playoff minutes
Malcolm
a game every night?
Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White.
Yeah, I said Brogdon, White, and Jaylen Brown. Like those guys are okay as a
No,
collective.
they're actually. Yeah, I mean, I think they have a great backcourt. I think. Yeah, I honestly, I don't feel like that they should change that. I feel like Kristaps just adds a lot of. He's just kind of like a better version of Al Horford, I would say. And Al Horford's now 37, so it makes sense.
Not
That's a
defensively.
low blow to Kristaps Porzingis.
Not
No, not really,
defensively.
not really, because it's more of like us not acknowledging how good Al Horford was this year. Like he was one of the best 3-point. I think he was the best 3-point shooting big man this year, which just adds a lot of value when when you have two wings slashing into the paint, and then there's just an opening just to pass it out to Al Horford or Brogdon. That's why they were amazing from 3 this year. I think they had 4 guys they had 3 guys on the bench shooting about 41%, and everybody shot above league average.
I mean, we saw when they struggled, it was because Al Horford was struggling from 3. And when Al Horford was hitting from 3, they looked like no one could get in their way. And
and Al Horford,
I think I'm sorry, I just think they're sacrificing too much on, like, Porzingis is not that good of a defender. Let's be real. He's not.
I think he's changed since his Knicks days. Like the thing is, when you're on a small market team, or at least a team that's in like the bottom third of the league in visibility, like the Wizards, it's easy for whatever you do in that situation to go unnoticed. And I think for Kristaps, like, I guess we could look at his stuff from last year, is that he just offers a very unique archetype. Like what he was doing, 23 points, 3 assists, 8 rebounds, 2.4 deflections, above average 3-point shooter, above average at the rim. Defense, I think, was all right, but it's not like he was surrounded by guys like Monte Morris and Denny Avdia or whatever thing is.
Another Wizard stake. My question is not how different is he, like what is he doing on the, my question is how different is he from Dallas Mavericks Porzingis? That's the question. Because I don't think a stint on the Wizards, who are we know they're a bad team, and he's putting up stats on a bad team.
He hooped last year though.
But he's on a bad team. It's like,
but
is it the Kevin Love effect, or is it something different?
If he's on a bad team and he's playing well and he played arguably way more efficient than he did on Dallas with the ball in his hands, at least by that standard, shouldn't your statistics drop efficiency wise when you're playing on a bad team and you're turned into more of an offensive weapon, like where he was playing more as like a pick and roll or pick and pop big alongside Luka and like a low.
And every co-star has kind of sucked with Luka Doncic because he's the highest volume player in the NBA.
It's the Russell Westbrook thing. Like, how are you supposed to win a championship with a guy who touches the ball that much?
Yeah, it's like what happened.
Give it up and
won't. Sabonis and Oladipo. Oladipo had like an MIP season next year after leaving the 2017 version of Russ, and then Domantas Sabonis became now probably a top 10 most valuable player. And he was just sleeping in OKC.
Mediocre on Oklahoma City. That's why they were okay moving him on. They're like, these guys can't play with that, but they both needed the ball in their hand to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah, like a guy like Luka and a guy like Harden are players that are going to really accentuate the talents of role players. Like think like Harden making Trevor Ariza.
Eric Gordon looked really good. He made Clint.
Who's a white guy? Who's a white
Ryan Anderson?
Spacer. Yeah.
That's a Chris Paul recipient though. Chris Paul got him going early in his career and turned him on, and then he had the stint with New Orleans that got him paid. Like he had that one season with New Orleans when they were the Hornets that got him paid. And who's
but he was known for shooting like 30-foot bangers.
Chris Paul was gone already. Chris Paul was on the Hornets. He'd been there for 2 years, but Anderson was like 5 years into his career, and all of a sudden got.
Yeah,
it was Drew Holiday probably was the point guard at that point.
It was Drew Holiday, I think.
Yeah, because they had Drew Holiday, Etuan Moore. They made the playoffs with Drew Holiday, Etuan Moore, Ryan Anderson, and AD, didn't they?
Yeah, you're right. They did. I swear.
That 2015?
Yeah, that was 2015.
That was when they faced the Warriors.
And they got
Curry hit that corner bank shot, that corner 3-pointer. They come back win. Got fouled too. I don't know what I call that.
I think we're at a good spot. I gotta leave the library soon because they're closing. But it's good to be back with the guys. I don't know if you had any closing remarks that you wanted to leave. But I feel like this has been a good, 45, 50 minutes-ish.
Yeah, I'll say, I don't know, it's been fun to get back in the action with these podcasts. I feel like it was fun to talk about what happened in the NBA playoffs, especially that finals run. It's nice, I think we're in for a very interesting season next year. I'll say this, as I said during my hot takes podcast. Don't sleep on the Kings this year. I think that they're going to do something.
I love the Kings, dude. Yeah. I just want to say, Dame, you're a snake. Dame, you are a snake. James Harden. James Harden, go to LA. We'll take Bones Highland, please. Bones Highland is the guy that I would like to return.
Be careful what you wish for.
All right.
Because Terrence Mann is a sticking point. You think they're going to give us Bones Highland? No way.
The Sixers need to do some reevaluating.
Ladies, it's been phenomenal talking and chit-chatting with you guys about basketball again. I think
course,
that
man.
it's going to be far from the last podcast that we do this offseason. So I think we'll have many chances to, hone in on some of these topics, and especially keep, just kind of up to date with things that are going on. We'd like to get on a weekly schedule, hopefully with at least these OTC pods. Maybe got more stuff coming. Different podcasts. Me and Julian will bring the War Room back, and 6 Month Madness is back at some point. But Quentin himself might have a little pod coming up soon. That'll be on the no. I was about to say No Ceilings feed. Shout out No Ceilings on the clock.
Yeah.
Feed.
Let me cook.
Much No Ceilings podcast, bro.
Yo, call that. Make that the name of your pod. Let Quint cook pod.
Yeah, let Quint cook.
Yeah.
It could be
Why not?
It could be the Let Him Cook pod. That'd be a good name. We're
why not?
Data Ball podcast. Let Quint cook. Let him cook. That could be a good title. Let Quint cook. Let him cook.
I'm the trademark guy.
See about that.
All right. This has been great. Speaking of trademarks, we're off the clock.